I'm Joey Korn from Augusta, Georgia. I learned to dowse in 1986. 8 years later, I attended my first dowsing conference in Vermont. I was blown away by all the things you could do with dowsing. And that just set me on fire. And in 2 years, 2 years later, I gave my first talk at the ASD in Vermont, and that started me on the speaking circuit. In '97, I began teaching and dowsing and doing space clearing work full time. From that point on, it became my new career, and I was looking for a new career. And it wasn't easy. It took a lot of diligence, but I persisted. And as many people has told me that you can never make a living at this, Joey, I did. I mean, this was my calling. I want to help you understand today. Oh, and it was in shortly after 97, 98 or 99, that I spoke for the first time for Gladys and Harold at ORI, and several times since, and just love them. I love the work they were doing. I love the work dowsers were doing around the world. And I've taught not only in the U.S., but in Canada, in England, in Portugal, in Mexico. It's become that passion turned into my life work. I now don't travel at all anymore to teach. That's why I'm grateful for these Zoom type these online presentations, because my full-time work now is spiritual space clearing, personal energy clearing, and remote spiritual space clearing. I help people that can be anywhere in the world every single day of my life. I'm dowsing and space clearing. I do all my dowsing now, even though I've tried all the dowsing tools I was made aware of. I dowse exclusively now with a pair of dowsing rods. That's all I use. That's not only my preferred dowsing instrument or tool, but it's my only tool. And I just want you to know that dowsing is much more than people think. Dowsing is much more than you might think. It's much more than a way to find lost objects, to spot a well, to find buried treasure or lost objects, to find missing animals or missing pets, to get information by swinging a pendulum with yes/no for yes/no answers, or using a chart. It's just much more than that. Dowsing is a spiritual process using spiritual tools. And again, this is my preferred spiritual tool. I call it a tool, even though it's two rods, the L rods. They're shaped like L's, and even though it's a spiritual tool, is that L? That L? I don't know. Looking at the TV, looking at this presentation. Even though it's a pair, I consider it my tool. I use them in conjunction with each other. And I only use dowsing to find energies, various kinds of energies that are affecting people day in and day out within their beings and throughout their homes. I used to love to explore energies outside in nature and find those special places in nature. But now I do my work pretty much exclusively inside, because what fascinates me more than anything in the dowsing world is the energies that affect us again day in and day out. Those energies are within us and in our homes. And, you know, dowsing, as I was beginning to say, is a spiritual process using spiritual tools that are to explore the spiritual world. You might call it God's light, to explore energies that are within us and around us all the time, affecting us day in and day out in our homes. And they're even affecting us. The energies in our homes are even affecting us when we're away from home, because we leave imprints of our energy patterns, of our own energies in our homes, in various places in our homes. But we always leave an imprint of our human, what I call our human energy pattern, around our beds. And we leave them elsewhere in life too. Those energies affect us too. You know, dowsers talk about quite a bit in space clearing work, talk about about geopathic stress, energies in the earth that affect us, but that affect us negatively, but they perform a natural function in the earth. I learned about those energies back at my first dowsing conference. That fascinated me. I learned various ways dowsers use to block, divert, or neutralize those energies so they don't affect people in their homes. And they all seem to work, at least for a while. But it just didn't make, but I learned then that I didn't need to use those techniques and rituals that I'd learned from other people. I learned that I could just use blessing. I could use the blessing process, asking God or whatever you consider to the divine to change the energies. Not only neutralize them, not send the detrimental energies away, such as that what dowsers think are energy fields of underground streams, Hartman grid lines, Curry grid lines, different kind of terms you may have heard. All these energies are considered to be harmful to us, and we're supposed to stay away from them or neutralize them. And I realized they're not harmful to us, at least not in themselves. If the energy field of underground water, or if these Hartman and Curry grid lines, I call the Hartman grid lines, by the way, they're in all of our homes. So are the Curry grids. The Hartman grids, I call it a checkerboard grid, because it makes a checkerboard grid in your home. The Curry grid, I call it a diagonal grid, because it makes a diagonal grid in your home. They build in their intensity, and the underground streams, to me, the energies related to underground water are the least intense, and the Hartman is more intense, and the Curry is even more intense. And I've also realized through the years, I've just been given a set of, you might call them discoveries, but they're not, they're gifts. People say, Joey, you have a gift. Yeah, I have a gift, many gifts. They've been given to me. This knowledge and this understanding that I have, these understandings that I have evolved to and grown to understand now and use, again, not only every day, but several, if not many times a day, to help others. These understandings were just given to me. We are all guided. We are guided from within. I call them my spiritual guides and teachers. You could call them angels. I think they're sort of all of that. You could call it higher self, which I think is our highest connection to the divine, our closest connection to the divine. Whatever it is, I've known since I was 21 years old that I'm guided. And I could look back in my life then after a powerful mystical experience where I had an out of body experience at that time. And it changed my life forever, put me on the path that I'm on now. But I knew then that I could look back and I could see that I've always been guided. And I was guided to make one finding after another finding and another finding in my dowsing work. I can see that now looking back. The first thing I found was that everybody has an energy field around them. And it would make, when I walked towards them with my dowsing rods, they would open or cross. But they would open or cross. When I walked towards a person, they would open and then cross, and then open and then cross again, like, much like this. They would open and cross, and then keep walking, open and cross. And I was taught early on that was a series of concentric circles of spiritual bodies emanating from the person. Well, I started finding them around trees, plants, animals, and natural energy fields in the earth. So I didn't just accept what I was being told. I have this drive to understand, and I wanted to see it see it mapped out on the ground or on the floor. And I took the time to do that. I had somebody else helping me. And I realized that all these different energy fields that I've mentioned around people, plants, animals, trees, and natural energies in the earth, such as what dowsers call power spots, I realize now that they're all the same. I realized then that they all seem the same. If I could mark and map one, I could see what they look like. Did they really look like concentric circles? I figured the opening was positive bands and the crossings were negative bands, and that's what they dowsed as. So I finally had somebody help me mark and map it very carefully what I was finding on they were marking the openings. They just put a piece of powdered chalk on the floor, red chalk on the floor to represent positive. The ground. The crossings, they would put negative chalk. I dowsed from many different directions, and then we connected all the dots from the outside in, and instead of finding concentric circles, we found that it was a beautiful spiral that just helped me understand. Yes, of course. What I was dowsing was what dowsers call a power spot. And then I saw the spiral of the power spot, and I said, I've been this vortex, I've been to Sedona many times. What do they call the power spots in Sedona? Vortexes. Duh. Then I realized our energy fields are vortexes. Animal energy fields are vortexes. Trees, everything just it's the spiral of life. So then the next thing, about the same time I started finding, shortly after that, I started dowsing inside and dowsing for energies that I could find inside. And so that's what really changed my life, because I was dowsing outside for energies that I thought were good for us, and the ones that were not good for us, I was learning to change them, and I began doing it with prayer, simply asking that they become beneficial. I brought prayer and blessing to the dowsing world. I feel that I did back in the 90s and continued to. But then I also started finding a repeating pattern of energies around beds. I had learned that many dowsers douse for energies around beds, but they're looking for those other energies, those geopathic stress energies that like underground streams and the Hartman and Curry grid lines, or checkerboard and diagonal, and they do rituals like hammering rods in the ground, and many still do that. And and I started finding a pattern, not just energies crisscrossing at beds, but a pattern, the same pattern of crisscrossing energies around everybody's bed. And then I learned that some of those, there was the same pattern, and there was like a typical set of imbalances or detrimental energies in that pattern. And some people had more than imbalances than others. But I learned that I could bless the people that slept in those beds, and it would change the energies of the beds, even if they didn't. It would make them beneficial if I blessed them for healing and balance, even if they didn't sleep in those beds. And then at that time, and so then I started realizing that has to be what I now call the human energy pattern. I even called it that then. And then I was dowsing the earth energies that I've been talking about, as that are thought to cause geopathic stress, as separate and distinct from the human energies. And then at some point in my journey, back in I know when it was 2007, I was teaching in Houston. I was actually in Houston in somebody's home at that time, doing some spiritual house cleaning or space clearing where I guide them through it. And I realized, all of a sudden hit me like a flash, something happened that I don't have the time to go through and tell you right now. Something happened that made me realize we are causing the earth energies to be out of balance. The earth energies are here to support us and all of life. God put them here for that reason. Our Creator put them here to support us. If they are detrimental, it's because something is causing it. And I realized in that one, because of a sequence of events in this woman's house, I realized that we are causing what we call geopathic stress. The earth energies are simply reflections and extensions of the energies of within us. The more out of balance we are in our lives, the more out of balance the earth energies will be. And then eventually, shortly after, and let's say about 2008, I began finding what I call interference energy. Interference energy is this weird energy that causes so many problems in people's lives, nobody knows about it. We attract it with negativity, and when we attract it, then all those earth energies in our homes go out of balance. Our human energy patterns go totally out of balance, these energies exacerbate all negativity, especially the negativity that brought it in the first place. It connects to the person that had with the negative that went going through a traumatic experience, let's say, but then it causes energy problems for everybody in that home and around that person. And I've learned that removing that energy, finding and removing that energy, is the key to space clearing. That's what I just dedicate myself to teaching now, but I only teach through my books, my DVDs, and in my home, and retreats that we now do only 2 times a year, and we used to do them 4 times a year. So I want you to know, we are all guided. We all have amazing powers within us. And dowsers need to learn about this interference energy and how to remove it with blessing, because that is the key to space clearing to me at basically all levels. That and one other major thing. You can learn about my work, much more about my work at dowsers.com. And through my book, Dowsing: A Path to Enlightenment, thanks to Gladys, she had an all-day workshop that I did recorded, and that is now available through me, and I'm sure you can borrow it from the ORI, and I think that's how Gladys does it, and I want you to know that you don't just have to practice, practice, practice. That's not it. You have to be passionate about dowsing. You have to have this to really get good at it. You have to be dowsing all the time. You got to try everything you think of, with every tool you think of. This is what I did, and quit using the ones that don't work. Go towards the ones that do, and stick with that, and that's what guides you along the path. What tool and what fulfills you in your dowsing work and in all of your life. All of your life is like that. So I just want to thank Gladys for inviting me to be a part of this. I appreciate everything that she and everybody involved in the ORI does for dowsers and for healing and for the world. And I hope to hear from you. Again, dowsers.com. Thank you.